Hi, I'm Eileen, and today I'm going to be going over 5th grade YLOG worksheet, lesson 3. So, the first, it asks us, write either greater than or less than or equal to for each underline. So the example here shows us 413, and we can see that 413 and the second number 413, they're the same numbers, so we put the equal sign like the answer. So I'm going to be going over number 1, 6, and 4. So number 1, it tells us 23 and 19. We know that 23 is a bigger number than 19. So 23 is greater than 19. For number 4, it gives us 96 and 87. 96 is greater than 87 as it's a bigger number. So 96 is greater than 87. Number 6 gives us 11 and 11. The 11 is just in word form, but number form, it'll be 11. We can see that they're the same. So it'll just be equal to. Next, it asks us, write each set of numbers in the order of greatest to least. So we're going to go over number 1 and 3. So the example gives us 413, 414, and 412. So it tells us from greatest to least. So the greatest here is 414. And then after that, it's 413. And then it's 412, which is the least. So number 1, it gives us 9, 5, 10, and 8. So the greatest number here we see is 10. And the least is 5. So we're going to write 10 first, since the order it tells us to put it in is greatest to least. And after 10, the second greatest number is 9. Then 8. And we already identified the 5 is the least number, so we put 5. And that will be our answer. Number 3 gives us 5, 8, 3, and 9. The greatest number here we see is 9. And the least number is 3. They're just in word form, but number form, they just look like this. So 9 is the greatest. And then 8. And then 5. We already know what the least number is, which is 3. Moving on, it tells us write each set of numbers in the order of least to greatest. So I'm going to be going over number 1 and 3. So it tells us least to greatest. So number 1, the numbers it gave us is 6, 8, 1, and 5. So the least here you can see is 1, and the greatest we see here is 8. So 1 we'll start off with in the order, since the order is least to greatest and 1 is the least. After 1 is 5, then 6, and the greatest we already know is 8. Number 3, it gives us 8, 7, 9, and 10. The least we know here is 7, and the greatest is 10. So that means we'll start the order with 7, then 8, 9, and finally 10. And that's our answer. Now it tells us to find if each set of numbers in the order of least are from greatest to least, least to greatest, or neither. So the example here gives us 4, 3, and 1. And we know that 4 is the greatest and 1 is the least. So that means this order is greatest to least. So I'm going to be looking at 1 and 2. So 1 gives us the number 1, 5, 7, and 11. So we see here that 1 is the least. 1 is the least, and 11 is the greatest. So that means this order is in least to greatest. Least to greatest. Since 5 is smaller than 7, and then 7 is smaller than 11. Number 2 gives us 53, 52, 41, and 19. So let's first look at the least number here. So the least number here is at the back, which is 19. And the greatest number we see here is 53. So that means, let's look at 52 and 41 now. 52 is smaller than 53. And then 52 is greater than 41, but 41 is smaller than 52. And 41 is bigger than 19. That means this order is in greatest to least. And that's our answer. Next, it asks us round to the place of the underlined digit. So the example gives us 413, but the underlined number here is 1. So if we look at 1, we see that the number behind it is a 3. So if it's 0 through 4, the numbers, that means we don't round up. If it's 5 or more numbers, we do round. And we see that 3 belongs in this category, right? So that means we just leave it as 410. I'm going to be going over 2 and 4. So 2, it gives us 592. So the underlined number here is 5. That's in the front. And we see behind 5 is a 9. And that, like I said earlier, if it's the number is 5 or greater, that means we do round. And 9 is in this category. So if you round 5, it will be 6. So the answer would just be 600. And if we look at number 4, it gives us 7,153. And the 5 here is underlined. So, which category is it from these two? It's a 5, so we do round it. So we leave the 7, and we're just going to round the 1. So 1, if you increase it, it'll just be 200. 7,200 is our answer. Lastly, we have a word problem. So number 1, it tells us the graph above shows the top 5 1984 Olympic results for the 100-meter men's swimming race. Using the graph, order the names from the fastest to slowest times. So we're going to order these names here on the left, and we're going to use these times to see who's the fastest to the slowest. So, the fastest will obviously mean the time will be really short. So, we see here that the smallest time here is Carrie's, which means Carrie was a lot faster. So, Carrie's the fastest. And the slowest will be a bigger number. And we see here that Curry has the biggest time. So, Curry was the slowest. So we're going to first start off with Carrie, since they're the most fastest. Then after Carrie, we have to see Wilson, West, and Herring. So let's see who's the fastest after Carrie. So we see that all three of them have 56, but we could just look at the number behind 56. So we see that the 900 is much more bigger than the other numbers, right? So that means Herring is the second fastest. Oh, I mean, Wilson is the fastest, as for the time, it has to be the one that has the shortest time. So we see that Wilson has 350, which is smaller than 490 and 900. So Wilson is the second fastest. After Wilson, we still have West and Herring. And we see that West has the smallest number than Herring, as 900 is smaller than 490. So after Wilson is West, and we already had it, that Herring was the second slowest. Then lastly, we already found out who was the slowest earlier, which is Carrie with 57. So Carrie is the last person.